Welcome everyone. This is episode 5 of the Transmaxxing podcast. And today's topic is why transmaxing is needed. So, why not start by asking Ali what her experience is regarding various transgender communities?
So primarily I was a part of leftist communities, as they seem to be the most common trans communities. And they generally have the too cute kind of rhetoric about them, and it's just about how you feel. You can identify as whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, make your transition whatever you want. It was a very safe faith, but I felt that didn't allow for a lot of important conversation, and of course there's the issue of being far left.
I think one big issue with a lot of these left-wing spaces is that they deny female privilege.
Yeah.
They don't really focus on the benefits you get from passing because they don't really recognize them.
Yeah, absolutely. They just recognize their victimhood, or they, I guess, victimize themselves a lot. But then also they don't appreciate what benefits they can receive. So they devalue what might actually be important for a lot of people, is passing, which will improve your experience. And it demotivates a lot of people.
Yeah, if you do all this rhetoric about being oppressed while failing to recognize why and why you're having social issues, you're going to lead people into the wrong path and maybe cause people not to transition in the first place. Did you ever...
Yeah, I agree with that. For me personally, I've experienced something similar to that, where I genuinely thought I wasn't trans because I didn't experience gender dysphoria. And the perception I had, especially with a lot of these public mainstream trans outlets, is that being trans is just a lessening of this suffering. And that life's not, life as a trans person isn't something that's really enjoyed, and it's just all oppression stuff. And so, it originally made me think I wasn't actually trans.
Yeah, what you just said there really struck a chord with me. The whole it just makes the suffering less. It's absolutely not true for so many people. It devalues the experience of people who don't experience that, and of course discourages them from transition.
But I think that one issue here that we are running into is that you have this conflict between politics and the well-being of trans people, and sadly a lot of people on the left value left-wing views and opinions about the well-being of trans people. When there is a conflict, they choose the left-wing views pretty much every time, unfortunately. And I can give an example of this. For example, if you look at Europe, we see that there is all this gatekeeping, hard to gain extra HRT, and this is a result of government control over healthcare. So this is the left-wing position, and we see the results from it, and it isn't exactly great for trans people. But did any of you use any of those true scum spaces?
I was gonna say, we actually had someone come in earlier today spouting very similar beliefs. That you're born that way. That's the only way you can be trans. That's what makes you trans. That was a fun conversation to have.
Yeah, this normalization of SRS and stuff was a very scary topic for me as well. I remember first considering transitioning and coming out, and having that question popped on me, and it it kind of scared me away of transitioning a little bit.
Oh, you're gonna have the surgery. Seriously, it's terrifying.
I think that
Yeah,
if you actually look
it's just-
at trans communities, like even the two cute one and the truscum ones, you realize that they are way more similar to each other than they want to admit. Because like both believe that trans is some innate thing, this like something inherent to you. They don't really believe that transitioning is a choice really. A very common thing I see it was about transmaxing is that I see all these people were trans all along. So this tells us that they view trans as some innate thing, like even if they don't specify exactly what it is. And sometimes when they question them, they like say that oh, it's about having dysphoria, but they don't like call themselves troscum or transmed. But still, this is like the opinion they have. And I think like a lot of medical professionals belong to the Truscum camp as well. Like even if they maybe don't tell you that, they still believe that they have the right to gatekeep you from transitioning.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter what the legislation is where you live, doctors still have that view.
One common issue for a lot of communities is this trust in doctors and the medical system.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I've noticed that personally as well. The it just seems like I'm an experiment with my one hormone specialist. Like I have to go in and tell them the problems I'm experiencing consistently, and it's like you'd think they'd have this stuff like down by now, but they don't, and it's like it's very sad how they just don't even care. And it's like I got a lot more educated information from this transmaxing group than I ever did from my doctor.
yeah, like the amount of people we see coming in who have just awful like regimes with their dosing, it's just terrible. And the fact that everyone has anti-androgens regardless of what dose that they're on, even if like they're on injections, they're often given anti-androgens still, which is ridiculous.
Like it's almost like they are trying to harm trans people like intentionally by screwing them over. Like
Very easy to think of.
I sometimes get the impression they are right to like sabotage trans people. I'm not saying this is the case, but it always hard to think they are that stupid sometimes.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Did any of you ever like try to participate in those it's just a fetish crowd spaces?
That was a personal mindset that I kept to myself. Never had a group to go to.
Yeah, so that's probably where I started. That it's just a fetish. Like this was just internalized. And it wasn't until I actually saw the Transmaxxing flyer that I thought, oh hey, it could be a lot more than that.
I also remember participating in spaces like that, and I think one reason is that you could actually discuss controversial topics in those spaces. Unfortunately, there were a lot of issues there as well. There were a lot of like paranoia, a lot of pseudoscience, and also it didn't help me in any way to like be in this space. It actually made me feel worse.
Yeah, it's like mental self-harm, really.
I would definitely say that transmaxing's a much suitable place to express any sort of kinks I have, rather than, trying to find cures or any sort of way of getting around it. Very liberating to just be who I am.
Yeah, of course we don't allow things that include self-harm in our community. So
We are actually very strict against self-harm. if someone like try to encourage it, like usually they get fully banned right away. If it is like maybe less serious, they get like timed out, but you really have to be strict about it because there are so many bad actors.
Yeah, and people even saying it as a joke immediately get timed out and told not to do that. You just don't accept it at all.
I think that a very common strategy people use is that they say something really offensive and then they say, oh bro, I was joking, bro. And the thing is, it's not an excuse, and the rules say that it isn't an excuse also. Like, of course, some people will ignore that, but like, even though we have it in the rules that don't do it even as a joke, like people do it anyway sometimes, and then they don't really have an excuse because like they should know better. But I think a lot of people don't even really care, they just want to do whatever, don't really care about consequences. Did any of you like ever try to participate in any of those city spaces?
Not outside of being linked like videos and then watching them, but I never sought them out, no.
Yeah, me neither. I never really seen anything local or anything like that. I was interested in it, but never seen anything.
Yeah, the issue I have with like all the city spaces is that like it's borderline self-harm if I'm being honest about it. And it's not really helpful for people looking to transition to like engage in those like spaces. They are very narrow and not really focused on like actually personal gain. It's almost the opposite, like how are you going to like humiliate yourself the most and like fuck yourself over the most. Like I don't really see
Yeah.
like I don't know why these spaces are so popular as they are. I think maybe
Yeah, it's like both mental gooning and also like physically and like socially gooning, where you just degrade yourself to such a matter. And like exactly that, there's so much you can do more than just be a sissy. There's being a woman's just so much more benefits to it.
Yeah, being a sissy is just promotes degeneracy. Honestly, the other crowds, the True Scum and Too Cute crowds are far better than that.
Yeah.
Of course, the Transmaxxing community is far better than both of those.
And you don't really like realize that until you actually try to use some of these other spaces. For example, there is this Ask Transgender subreddit, which is like one of the better mainstream ones. But even then, like it's very easy to just get banned or like forcefully get deleted because it was too controversial. And you don't really get that good advice either from there. Like there have been cases where I had to like DM someone because like their advice they got there was garbage, so I had to like DM them and tell them something better. Currently I never do that because I have to take care of the spaces I currently control. And this is like working off, so I cannot like help randos and those mainstream spaces anymore.
Yeah, I still help a few people in a couple Discord servers, but I'm only really listening to their HRT channels and their Doom posting channels. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we are growing our own spaces. We have websites, we have YouTube channels, we have a subreddit. It is a lot of work maintaining and improving all that. And the thing is, I want to make people come here. I don't want to like try to like help people on space if I'm not even allowed to post, because like have gotten banned like several times from those more mainstream spaces. And sometimes it's like only because I am like associated with Transmaxxing, they don't want to even like allow it or like even be discussed really. Like there is this very common theme I see with Transmaxxing is that like people on the left don't want us to even exist, they want us just gone pretty much. They don't want to like acknowledge that we even exist. And they want to like write us off as either like being in denial about something which is like ridiculous. Like what people don't realize is that like when people come here, it's very common that people know that they have gender dysphoria. This is not really something people are in denial about for the most part. I sometimes see it in these like communities where they think they just have a fetish. Sometimes in those spaces I see like gender dysphoria people are in denial about. But like when it comes to like transmaxing, most people who come here already know that they have dysphoria if they have gender dysphoria. And like if they don't, they will find out very quickly because they might feel a lot better after HRT and they realize, oh, I had gender dysphoria. Like this is not something you can will remain in denial about like after like transitioning, because then you can like compare before and after. I guess some people might not like recognize that they have something driving them through transitioning. It might take some time before I realize that, oh, I had this preference in me. So of course there are maybe cases like this, but I think like the reason people come here is that we actually help people in ways that other communities do not. Just take for example access to HRT. A lot of like other spaces don't really help people with that. A lot of places like on Discord don't even allow people under 18 because they are too scared to have all of minors or even post there, but in this space we actually have a safe environment for people under 18 to participate. We have channels that they cannot access.
And we have a very active moderation team ensuring that that stays the case.
I think one common issue with a lot of trans spaces is what's called hugboxing, where someone like might ask if they pass and then they get told that they do pass when they don't, and maybe you can explain why this is problematic.
Yeah, it's primarily problematic because it gives people misplaced confidence. It's all well and good to be confident and to, believe in believe in yourself, but if you get told that, one thing or another is passing and it's not, you'll stop improving that. And so these people are directly harming others because, they promote the idea that they don't promote the idea. They encourage people to be complacent with how much they develop their looks and their passing ability.
I think that this complacency is a very common thing among lesbian spaces. They don't really want to improve and do better. They are okay with current SRS options. They're okay with current HRT options. They don't really try to do better. In many cases they could do better even with current medical technology, but they just don't really focus on that because according to their ideology it's all about the inside, how you feel. They don't really want to recognize that people can look legitimately bad and unattractive. To them, if they think you're ugly when you are, they think you have some mental disorder like BDD.
So it's not like we consider being attractive the same as being passing. You can pass without being attractive, and you can be attractive without passing.
Yeah, they don't always go together. It's important to recognize also that in some areas not passing is outright dangerous, because if you don't pass and you go to some transphobic environment, you might get into real trouble.
Which is beginning to be the case in the US as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Some red states, it's becoming dangerous, not a path actually. So like in those like environments, having people hugbox you is dangerous because people need to know if they don't pass for their own safety, unfortunately. Regarding the notion that transitioning is some innate thing, that you're like destined to transition, you're like destined to be like identify as trans or whatever. Like we actually have studies on that showing it to be false. And there are multiple like studies on intersex children who show that how they are raised have a big impact on what they identify as and what they remain as. And what you will notice is that a lot of trans basically lie about the science regarding this. They will not be honest with you for some reason because they want to like push their ideology at the expense of scientific accuracy.
Yeah, it seems like they all have like biases or like very like narrow rule set of what they think it means to be trans, and it's like, why not try to like think of all the reasons why you should transition and think of the reasons you shouldn't, and make a cost analysis. Choose what's best for you in the end, because that's what life is about, making the best choices for your life.
And this is something that we really focus on here, having people make better decisions for themselves and relying on each other rather than outsiders. Because what we found out pretty early on in this community is that we had to like construct like our own HRT advice and like everything, because just the existing resources were too limited and had too many issues. And other spaces don't really do that, they just like tend to like link to outside pages instead. They are in this mindset that we should like all work together into this wider thing, so let's use all of these like outside sources, let's like use all these doctors or whatever, and let's like just go to the like therapists and have the talk to them. And this is something you see a lot in like these more mainstream spaces, is that they tend to believe in psychiatry and psychotherapy. So they think that you should like talk to some gender therapist about it instead of like actually figuring out yourself. So a lot of them, like even if they could gain access to HRT like early, they don't want to do that because they first want to talk to some therapist about this for like 3 years and then maybe they go on HRT after that.
Yeah, I think once you go on HRT, it's very obvious. Like, you can have some doubts before you do it, but once you're on it, pretty much everyone knows. And especially once you start developing, you'll be able to tell. You don't need a therapist to figure all that out.
The thing with like psychotherapy and like pretty much everything is okay, it is that either the evidence in favor of the treatment is like short term, so maybe people felt better for a short while after whatever they did, or in some cases there isn't really evidence at all. And like when it comes to like gender therapies, there's no evidence that they actually do any good. Like people want to believe that they help people, but how can they help you? I feel like something that they might do is that they might tell you you're trans or whatever to make you more comfortable, but the thing is this can lead people to transition when it isn't beneficial as well.
Yeah, with how they're just like looking for gender dysphoria instead of like seeing the bigger picture, it really does seem like they can just like misdiagnose you and fuck up your life kind of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, many males that who wouldn't do well transitioning both mentally and physically, they might experience gender dysphoria, because gender dysphoria doesn't necessarily indicate that you should transition. You can be dysphoric because of your role in society.
But I think a big problem with a lot of spaces is the notion that if you have dysphoria you should transition. Like this is a very common thing you see. But I don't think like dysphoria alone is enough to justify a medical transition. Not just me thinking it is objectively the case also.
Just linking back to comparing us with other communities, like our advice, all of our advice, including our medical advice, is backed by science. All our HRT advice is backed by science.
And I actually took a lot of effort into reading up on the science and actually looking what the science showed, because there are a lot of like theories and ideas and like approaches. I had to look at what can we actually know for sure, what is speculation, what is like maybe true but weak evidence. So I actually ended up doing maybe compromise suggestion where like you should be fine regardless, and so one thing that we did, for example, after reading up more science and doing more research, is that we realized more and more that you're better off not using an anti-androgen at all and just doing monotherapy from the start. Because the risks were too high with those anti-androgens. There were too many issues with them and not enough like proven benefits, so we just cut them out completely. There are pretty much no other trans phase that actually realized that. I actually heard about some endo doing it for the patient. There was someone in this community reporting that their endo wouldn't give anti-androgens. So when I heard about that, I actually told them that there might be like good reasons for that. I told them also that this wasn't like the norm, but maybe they were onto something. So I didn't actually tell them to go against the doctor, because there are like good reasons not to use them. But this is like a medical professional, like not wanting to use them, also for good reasons. But I'm not sure if they actually got good HRT, because maybe they got too low of a dosage for effective monotherapy.
You know what ROA they were using their estrogen?
I think it was just oral estradiol.
Yeah, okay, so it needs to be a higher dose to actually suppress.
Yeah, you need at least 8 milligram of estradiol valerate to have a decent shot of suppressing testosterone. But like even in that case, like it's not clear that you will benefit from an anti-androgen if you are on that lower dose anyway, because it might do more harm than good anyway. When there is some like controversy in the community, and where we feel like we have to take a stand, what we do is that we have all Politburo members vote, and then whatever the majority votes for becomes the policy for the server. So what we voted was that for one, like if you join this community, you need to like leave the incel mentality behind and actually improve yourself. We voted 5-2 against using having SRS under any circumstances. So here not everyone agreed to this, but most Politburo members did vote that you shouldn't pursue SRS at all, like regardless of circumstances. because current options are just too bad, so then it's not really worth all the risks. Like even if you have like genital dysphoria, it's not worth it anyway.
Yeah, the amount of people who stand to benefit is too small to be able to recommend it to anyone. We can't make the guess as to whether someone's going to benefit from it or even if the surgery is going to go right.
I don't think I have ever seen a good as a result. I have seen some potentially good where the pictures were like bad, you didn't really see too much. But the actual good outcome I haven't seen at all. I have seen hundreds of bad ones though.
Yeah, me too.
Another vote we had was regarding this thing called autogynephilia, where you get like turned on by being feminine. And what we recognize after reading a lot of studies is that this is just a normal aspect of female sexuality, and we actually see that a lot among cis females. Like a lot of them, like if you ask them why they are wearing makeup, they will say that they are doing it for themselves. If you ask them why they are like using sexy clothing, they will tell you that this is for themselves. Like they will not say that they use it to attract a male, because they don't, obviously they don't need that. They can use time that they find like 200 guys into them. So it doesn't make sense to use like revealing clothing to attract males these days anyway. So it has to be some other reasons to feel good.
And I feel like a lot of cis females are either in denial or very hesitant to admit this, which can be very damaging. Which is very damaging for trans females.
Yeah, I've actually talked to someone and they admitted it, but I know they're more like, they're not as delusional as some, where it's like they wouldn't admit it even if they like noticed it.
And I am not like being too hard on cis females here, because we live in a sexually repressed society, or at least in America it's very sexually repressed. So of course in those societies like America, you don't want to like be open about it. I think though that for cis females it's more accepted to be turned on because they get a pass, while trans females they might get more scrutinized and not really accepted. So if you, it will be nice to do an experiment where you have like a cis female and a trans female talk about like being turned on by that, by wearing like revealing clothing, and most likely like the trans female will get way more hate than the cis female, because like they are cis, they get like a disease pass. Which is also, by the way, why you need to pass, because if you don't pass, like you will get way more scrutinized. Like anything you do wrong will be used like against you, and look how like this is some perverted person or something because they are trans, while if they are viewed as just another female, they get sort of a pass and people don't really like give them a hard time.
Not to mention that their image can be used to disparage the wider trans community.
Yeah, and here I actually have like conflicting views, because I'm not sure if the respectability policies like that even works in the first place. But I do think that it is important to have like good role models, good representatives. So it's important that at least trans people that we lift up and like show to the world are like good looking ones. But of course, like some people might benefit from transitioning even if they cannot pass. And in those cases, like I don't really want to say that they shouldn't do it, because for some like caring about like other trans people or whatever, not making trans people look bad by not transitioning, like that doesn't really make sense either. But of course we want to help people pass as good as they can. If they do decide to transition, we want to like look into like, do they need surgery, do they need to have like FFS, and then we have to be honest with them, because this is something you can potentially fix. You can maybe say that if there is something about you that makes you look bad but you cannot change it, then maybe you shouldn't bring it up. But if they actually can change it with surgery, maybe you should bring it up to them so they can fix it. Like this is not something that is going to be permanent anyway, so why not tell them so they know?
Yeah, I know that with like some aggressive surgeries, you can change a lot in your face, and it can definitely make a big difference and help a lot of trans women who transition at later ages.
Yeah, and one big issue with FFS that I don't really see mentioned in other spaces is that just merely going to some like doctor for FFS often is not going to work out very well. Because if you actually look at before and after photos, a lot of the time it's basically looks the same. There isn't really much improvement. And I actually wonder about it because noticed that a lot of people will be in denial about that. They will say that look at this person that maybe looks good after the FFS, but maybe they looked good after also before. And like if you look at before and after, like on Google, like in most results you see there isn't much improvement anyway. So you have to question why you even have it in that case. Like
Especially with how expensive it is.
Yeah, how expensive it is, and also like going on the surgery, there are some risks with that as well. So if you don't pass after it, then why have it? And if you pass before FFS, and also why bother? So for the FFS to make sense, you kind of need to go from not passing to passing, and otherwise it's not really worth it, at least in my eyes. Yeah, and I hope that after listening to this you will understand why our community is needed, why we need to grow as a community, and why what we are doing is the right thing. Hope you have a nice day forward.